there. There. All right. All right, so how's everybody doing tonight? So we've got folks from all over, Australia mostly, right? So where most of your tribe's from? Okay. Right. So Sydney. All right. I want to do that, but that's okay. So how much time do you want me to give for folks to come on? Okay, I've got some issues with the connection, I think, but do I sound okay to you?
You sound good now, yeah.
Okay.
I haven't actually got a clue how many people are going to be here, so it'll be luck of the draw, Alan, to see how many people are going to be here. But as I said, I have this recorded anyway, and we're going live into the Facebook group. So
good. Well,
so we'll just give it maybe another minute. You're on 8 o'clock, isn't it for you, Alan?
8 p.m. Yes.
8 p.m.
I live in Bocas del Toro, Panama, which is on the Caribbean side of Panama.
Amazing.
Kind of lesser known. We're literally a Caribbean island that doesn't get hurricanes. And
Wow.
so yeah, right now we're on the central time zone, and we don't do the crazy flip-flop daylight savings time that they do around the world or in the United States. And so we'll flip over to Eastern time when they flip. Coming up a week and a half from now. So not looking forward to that, because it puts everything we do on East Coast time, and I'm more of a morning person than an evening person. So
yeah.
You know,
even for play to you, like doing this in the evening for us, I know if it was 8 p.m. for me, I'm exactly the same. I'm a morning person too, and I would find it hard now to be concentrating this time of the evening. So again, thank you very much for that.
That's all right. But and it's not, I only got up at 3 o'clock this morning, so it's not like a
oh my God, that's very early morning. My God,
yeah.
I thought the 5 was good. Jeez, that's middle of the night now, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it sort of is, but what I find is, guess what I don't get at 3 o'clock in the morning? Emails, phone calls, interruptions.
Chill time. Yeah, absolutely. That is very true. Unless you're working with people from different parts of the world, then you're definitely still going to get all those things.
Yeah.
Depending on the time zone. I think, Alan, if you want to get started now, I'd say we're pretty good to go. And if people pop on in between, they pop on. And yeah, I'll just leave it over to you. I'm going to mute myself.
Okay, all right. Well, again, thank you for being a part of this presentation. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. It might seem kind of odd to have a man speaking about thriving during menopause, but I'll explain why in a minute that I care about this topic as much as I do. So it won't sound as weird once we get into the presentation, but yeah, you have a guy talking to you about menopause, which is something I will never personally experience, but I've talked to a lot of people who have. I've dealt with a lot of people who have, and so that's why I'm coming to you today. Let's see, here's my agenda. Okay, so first we'll talk about myself a little bit, just to give you an idea of why I'm here and what I do. We'll talk about perimenopause and menopause, because they're actually two really different seasons in a woman's life, and we'll get into why that's important. We'll talk about the changes that happen as you're going through perimenopause and then into menopause, and then what you can actually do about it, because you do have some power to fix yourself, to make sure that you're going through this in the most appropriate way for yourself. And it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. So it's something you'll have to work it with, just like everything else in health and fitness. There's the depends answer to just about every question you're ever going to ask. And then I'll go into a Q&A session where I'll let you go ahead and come on, and I'll ask Amanda to kind of help me there with the moderation of calling on people and getting them on the call if they have questions. But we'll go ahead and do a quick little Q&A to get into it. And then at the end, I've put together 4 resources. They're books that I really liked as I was going through doing interviews over the course of my podcast. These are individuals who really understand this topic really, really well. And so if you have questions, we can't cover it in half an hour, and even the Q&A that follows. So you're at some point probably going to have questions. These are resources that I highly recommend. And then we'll just go ahead and close it out. Okay? All right. So I am a 55-year-old man who will not go through menopause. I have a 53-year-old wife who is in menopause, and I'll explain that a little bit later as we get into our discussion. I am not a doctor. Okay, so anything I say is not medical advice. I'll encourage you to have conversations with your doctor to make sure that you're doing the right things for yourself. What I am is I'm a certified personal trainer. I focus with older people. I work with people over 40. I do corrective exercise. I do behavior change. I do fitness nutrition. I'm also a functional aging specialist with the Functional Aging Institute. I'm also an OTA level 2, and that's how I actually met Amanda and Brian, is through OTA and the training there. I wrote the book, I won an award with it, called The Wellness Roadmap, and it's basically a guide to health and fitness for people over the age of 40, although I would say there's probably some things in there for even you 20-year-olds that you might like to have as kind of in your back pocket as you get older and think about wellness through your entire life. And I'm the host of the 40 Plus Fitness podcast. It's the oldest and longest running and largest podcast for fitness for people over the age of 40. I've done 509 episodes since December of 2015, and that includes 315 expert interviews. And the one thing I pride myself on is every expert that comes on my show, I read their book. I read every word in their book. So when they come on my show, I know their book better than they do because it's been a while since they wrote it and they've had time to forget it. I just read their book. And so when I'm talking to someone about menopause, because I do have people on all the time to talk about different health and fitness issues that deal with people over 40, I read their book well enough to be able to have a really good conversation. And I talked about the resources section. So the 4 authors that I profile there, that I have there with their books, I also have the numbers of the episodes where I interviewed those individuals. And there's just tons of nuggets of gold in there. If you just want to go listen to a podcast that before you decide you want to buy the book. So anyway, yes, I pay attention to this topic because what I've come to understand, again, having a 53-year-old wife, is that her health issues are my issues. If I'm going to be a good partner, if I'm going to be a good spouse, I have to be there for her. I have to be in her corner with her. And things I learn on the podcast, things I learn reading books that have nothing to do with my health, actually help us make health and fitness decisions for each other. So just recognize that as I get into this, I'm really passionate about helping people over 40 get healthy and fit. And a lot of my clients actually have this mindset that after they're 50 and after in menopause, they can't lose weight. They can't get fit. They're always going to feel this way. They're always going to look this way. And I can tell you straight away, it's not true. There are answers to this. Your answer might be a little bit different than her answer, but the answers are out there if you're willing to work and make it happen for yourself. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And the reality is that menopause and perimenopause are not bad things. You'll hear that. You'll hear, oh my God, this is going on, that's going on. You hear hot flashes. You'll hear this, night sweats, not able to sleep, and all the mood problems, relationships ending, all those things that happen don't have to happen, at least not the way they are happening. The reality of it is, if you think back to when you were in your teens and you went through puberty, that was just as confusing. But you had adults standing around in the room probably to kind of help you and coach you through pieces of that. Why is this happening about my body? Why did that happen to my body? Why do I feel this way? Why am I breaking out? Why do I feel this way? As you went through puberty, it was a stage. It was a stage of you coming from being a child to being someone of childbearing years. And all perimenopause and menopause is you exiting those childbearing years. So what's happening is a very similar thing. It typically happens between the ages of about 40 and 45, although I've heard of cases happening as early as 35 and as late as 60, where your hormones start to change because your body's starting to say, I'm done. I'm not going to have kids anymore. And so your estrogen drops, your progesterone drops. And while it's doing it, it's not just this slide, a steady little just decline, nice little kind of soft landing into menopause. It's erratic. It's your estrogen is low, your estrogen is high, you're weepy, you're crying, you got hot flashes, you got all this stuff happening, abnormal periods, you're bleeding really heavy, all these different symptoms and things are happening. And every woman goes through a unique experience with this. There's not one path. And that's what makes it so hard for women. And for a lot of women, and I hate this for you, is men don't understand. They almost think you're menopausal. They don't think you're menopausal. They think you're PMSing. They think whatever. They think this is normal. Suck it up, buttercup. And so sometimes you go to the doctor and they're like, that's completely normal at your age. That's completely normal at your age. And so they're not necessarily going to have that kind of compassion to say, hey, it is normal, but it doesn't have to be your normal. So what can you do about it? And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, okay? So basically, you are in perimenopause once you start having these erratic symptoms. Your estrogen is going all over, all these things are happening. The symptoms are starting to happen, but you're not in menopause, pure menopause, until you have not had a period for 1 year. Okay, so once you haven't had a period for 1 solid year, you're deemed in menopause. And you likely probably won't ever have a period again in your life. Yay, right? Maybe not. Because it means you're also not producing estrogen, you're not producing enough progesterone. And so your body's going to change. And that's the changes that women see as they start getting, once they get into menopause, that a lot of women don't like. They're losing the feminine childbearing body and they're becoming something different. And that's a really hard thing for a lot of women to grasp and kind of wrap their minds around. Happens the same thing for men. We call it andropause. It's not as common a term or of a conversation, but men are dealing with the same thing in their own way. It's just not as drastic as what women are doing. So once you're in menopause, like I said, it's sort of just like puberty. It's just a stage. And so if you can think of your life and what your body's doing with regards to hormones to make sure that we can procreate, we can do the things we're supposed to do, your body is basically going into puberty, which is uncomfortable and weird. And then you're a woman and you can have babies as you choose. And then now you're coming out of that and you're going into a different phase. And here's what's really cool about this last phase. You're now smarter, wiser, able to do so much more for people around you. And you're going to have grandchildren and you're going to have this great opportunity if you embrace it. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people let menopause beat them. And as a result, they don't see the results they want and they're not happy with the outcome. And I'm telling you today, I see it over and over and over. When you empower yourself, when you step forward and start doing the right things, you will do better through this. You will see results and you can lose weight. You can do everything you want to do. No, you're not going to have your 23-year-old body, like I'm not going to have my 23-year-old body, but you can be healthy and fit and accomplish all the things you want to do. You just have to put in the time and effort and do it in a kind of a smart way. Now, I talked about menopause being a thing that happens over time with perimenopause, and then you go a year without a period. I do want to say there is one exception, and that is medically induced menopause. So if you have a full hysterectomy, you have your ovaries taken out and have your uterus taken out, you effectively are in menopause at that point in time because your body can't produce the estrogen, it can't produce the progesterone. And so at that very point in time, and that can happen in your 30s, your 20s, whenever, if you go through a full hysterectomy, you are in menopause. So you're going to see some of these same symptoms, even if you're much, much younger than someone going through it later in life. Okay, so what are these changes? For a lot of women, it's a libido change. And interestingly enough, particularly during perimenopause, sometimes it's a ratchet up of libido for a period of time. And then sometimes it's a ratchet down. And so it's this, am I ready? Do I want? No, up, down, up, down. A lot of women also notice that their metabolism seems to be slowing down. They're doing the same amount of exercise, they're eating the same foods, and yet they're watching their body weight go up. And it's really frustrating. Sleep issues are probably the most common thing that women will talk about. There's night sweats and hot flashes and all those different things going on. But a lot of women really start struggling with insomnia about this period of time because, again, the sleep cycle, the circadian rhythm is built around managing hormones, around how our hormones work. And if your hormones are just, then sometimes sleep just really isn't as easy to keep and to keep doing. And so those hormone changes are impacting your sleep, and then your sleep or lack of sleep is impacting your hormones. So it's kind of this really bad cycle. And then mood issues. Obviously, you ladies, you know, you go through some mood issues on a cycle on a normal a month. Well, this is that kind of on steroids. It can be much more difficult to deal with as you go through this process. And so just recognizing that these are normal and not, they're sort of, you're becoming your new normal, but they're not normal because they're all over the place. Okay. And then the weight gain. And this is where most people really struggle with this, because the weight gain is not like weight gain they had in the past. So if you put on 5 pounds when you're in your 20s, you're probably putting it on your butt and or you're putting it on your breast. And that's a good look. You know, you've got some extra on you and you're attractive and childbearing and all that stuff. Now you're more likely to put that body fat on your stomach. So the pooch and then the stomach and the belly, that becomes a different feel for how you're storing body fat. And it really is just the lack of estrogen and progesterone that's causing that redistribution of fat. And then, of course, because our metabolism doesn't seem to be working quite as well, the weight gain is coming on a little faster. And you can kind of see how that's a double whammy for not liking exactly how your body is distributing the fat that you are carrying. So that's a challenge. That's a challenge for you mentally, and it's going to be a challenge for you physically. And then the other is interpersonal. And this is a topic that doesn't get talked about enough, is when you're struggling emotionally, when you're struggling personally, it's really hard for you to be the mother, the husband, the mother, the wife, all the things that you have to be for work and everything that you do, because you're juggling all these balls. And so a lot of times it's very common for a woman going into perimenopause to start having interpersonal relationship issues with their kids, with their spouse. And it can be really, really bad. So at least recognizing where you are gives you at least some option of tools. That's why I say I take this very seriously, because as I look at relationships between my wife and me and what my girls and me and all this stuff, I have to understand that their hormones are a key driver for their mood. Their mood is a key driver for how they act, and how they act is how I need to respond. But if I did it just on the fact that why is she yelling at me every day, then I just think there's a problem. And the reality is, if we don't get past that little problem, the interpersonal part of this can be a big, big deal. Okay. Added stress, added cortisol, added body fat. And so again, a big cycle and a kind of a spiral that as you start having the awareness that you're potentially going into perimenopause, because what was normal, you were regular on your periods and now you're not. What was normal was your moods and how well you were sleeping, and that's now not. Kind of getting a recognition that something might be happening will give you the tools to self-assess and make sure that you're managing this on all levels, not just health and fitness. Okay, so what do we do about it? Well, first, as I said earlier, I am not a doctor. But if you are noticing changes in the way that things are working for you, heavier periods, not sleeping well, hot flashes even, those types of things that can happen, it's time to talk to your doctor. and you should be seeing your doctor on a regular basis for your normal checkups. And so when you go into your doctor and you're over 35 and you start having these issues, they're going to kind of take you down this course. Don't just listen to one doctor. I would recommend you do your own research and have the conversation and be an advocate for your own health with your doctor. There is hormone therapy, replacement therapy, where they're replacing the estrogen and maybe the progesterone. And so having a conversation about whether that's right for you. There are certain herbs and supplements that have been shown effective, generally effective in dealing with things like night sweats and things like that. But be careful, don't self-experiment with those things, because some of them are actually a lot more medicinal than just thinking you're taking a herb. It actually can cause some major problems and other issues, particularly if you're taking other medications. So don't just go with this blindly. Do have conversations with your general practitioner, with functional medicine people. Do your own research, become your own medical advocate, but make sure you have a support team, a medical team, as a part of what you're doing as you're making these decisions. Okay, the next thing is eat real food. For a lot of us, the weight gain issues that we deal with are not just the fact that we're eating too much. It's that we're eating calorie-dense food that's not nutrient-rich. So finding nutrient-rich whole foods, it was alive. It walked this earth, and we picked it, or however your eating plan goes. It's something that was alive. It's not ultra processed. It's not added sugar. It's not chemicals. The ingredients are the same. And as I love to say on my podcast, if it comes from a bag, box, jar, or can, it should be a little bit of what you eat. It shouldn't be predominantly what you eat. So eat real food, and that's going to help you make sure you're giving your body the nutrients it needs to do what it needs to do. The next one is movement. And movement takes multiple forms. One of the things that happens in our bodies after the age of 35 is we deal with two big issues. One is called sarcopenia, which is where muscle is slowly degrading. And that happens at about 1% per year until we're about 65. And then it starts increasing exponentially. So if you don't do any resistance training, you will start losing muscle. And so from the age of 35 to 65, you could lose 40% of the muscle you have today. And that loss of strength also means loss of independence. It also means loss, and in most cases, higher mortality rates. So resistance training is key. The other thing is osteopenia. So, older women tend to deal with osteoporosis. Well, osteopenia is the process of bone breaking down or becoming less dense over time. Again, it's very similar, starts around the age 35 and then slowly goes at about 1% per year until about age 65, then exponential. Resistance training deals with both of those issues. So resistance training is really important, especially for women. Put on more muscle, build bone density while you can, and you always can. But when you're younger, if you're not at the age of menopause or even close, lift weights, do resistance training. It doesn't have to be big iron. You don't have to go into a gym with all the grunting guys, but make sure that you're putting resistance on your muscles and resistance on your bones, so you're protecting yourself from this aging curve. Endurance training. If you want to be a good grandma, you got to have stamina. Those little buggers, they're running, they're all over the place. If you want to keep up with them, if you want to live the lifestyle that you want to live, you need the endurance, the stamina to be able to do those things. And the only way you keep stamina is through training, through practice. And then the final bit is mobility. It's really surprising how many people struggle to get on the floor and get back up. Because I train people over 40, and I'll tell someone, I say, just sit down on the floor and get back up. How'd that feel? And it felt horrible. It felt horrible. But you watch a kid do it, they literally just pop down on the floor, pop back up, run around. It's no big deal. I was dating this girl when I was in junior college, and she had a little nephew. His name was Ryan, and he invented this game called squat ball. And so he would run to the ball, he'd pick up the ball, and he would squat down. And he would sit there, and I don't know what was going on in his little brain, but he would sit there for a second, think about something, and then just throw the ball as hard as he could from that squatted position. And then he would run to the ball again and squat down and pick it up again. And he would do this for hours. I mean, Ryan playing squat ball. And I just was thinking to myself at the time, I'm 19 years old. I don't know that I could have played or outplayed Ryan in squat ball. He just had this dynamic of moving around and being free that I had already started losing at the age of 19. And so the reality is our mobility is going to go if it's not something we continue to use. And so as you look at your body changing, recognize that food is really, really important, and movement is really, really important. And we're going to lose the capacity to out exercise our diet, but we still need to exercise for purpose. Fitness, when you get older, is no longer about being able to be a CrossFit athlete or do these other things necessarily. It's about being fit for task. If I want to be the best grandfather, then I need to be able to do these things. If I want to be the best at this or that, I need to be able to do these things. But in a general sense, I just want to be able to take care of myself. I want to be independent as long as I possibly can. I want to be able to do the things that are necessary for me to feel good. And when my grandchildren are around, I want to be able to do whatever they want to do. I don't want to be a spectator in their lives. So recognizing strength training, endurance training, and mobility are core components of you being the person you want to be. You need to be doing those on a regular basis. The next is stress management. And this is probably one of the hardest ones as you're going through perimenopause and menopause, because at this point in your life, it's kind of one of those periods of time when you're maybe really working hard on your career, you're really working hard on being a good mother, and then now this is happening. So it's kind of like this just kind of happens at a really not comfortable, not well-planned time in your life. Puberty happened at a time you were starting to notice boys and wanting to be cute, and then you get the acne. This is happening now at a time when you're not all that interested in boys anymore, but you're interested in being really good at what you do and being proud of some body of work, and your body's not cooperating. So having self-love, having self-care is really, really important during this period of time, because yes, your body's going to let you down. Yes, you're going to have some times when you just don't feel good. You're going to have times maybe you didn't sleep so well because you had hot flashes or night sweats. And just having the compassion for yourself to say, okay, I have to recognize that self-care and self-love and compassion are really important aspects for me being whole, the whole of my life. And recognizing that, like I said, these are stages, these are things that happen to every woman. They have their own journey, you'll have your own journey, but as you kind of look at these things to say, what do I need to accomplish here, and what's possible and what's reasonable, and find that marriage and do that thing. Don't be hard on yourself. This is not a good time to be hard on yourself and be pushing yourself to extremes, because you've got enough going on with the hormones and everything else that's going on. And then final is sleep. And again, this is one that's going to be really, really hard for a lot of people, because you're already dealing with all the other stuff, the hormone changes and everything, night sweats, insomnia, the huge problem, particularly during this period of a woman's life. And so anything you can do to improve the quality of your sleep with good sleep hygiene and making sure that you're trying to get as much rest as you can when you can, all very, very important. Hormones are managed by our circadian rhythm. So good quality sleep puts you in the best position to have optimal hormones. And so if you're getting the best sleep you can, you're doing yourself a huge favor. So it's not just one thing. It's not just eat real food. It's not just do movement. It's not just stress management. It's not just sleep. You really have to come up with a comprehensive approach to putting all of those together, and then working closely with your doctor, be it a general practitioner or be it a gynecologist where you're working on hormone therapy, or be it someone where you're trying to do more natural herbal remedies. Find your approach, find your team, but you are the driver. You are the CEO of your health. So taking the time to make sure that you've put together a plan, and then adjusting that plan, as of course, every plan only works up to a point, and then you have to start adjusting. But recognize you are in control. This is your life. This is your thing. So you can make some changes. And when you do, it will make this an easier transition. So these are a few of the people that I've interviewed, and I want to talk just a little bit about these books and about these individuals. The hormone intelligence, the reason I put this first is every single woman on this planet should have this book. Okay. I interviewed her in episode 490. I encourage you to just go, if you go to my podcast, you can listen to this 40 Plus Fitness podcast on all the podcast apps out there, or you can go to my website and listen to it there. This woman is brilliant, and she pretty much wrote the guide on how to be a woman. I mean, from a hormone, from a woman health perspective, this is I haven't seen anything even close to this book. The estrogen window I put next because I know for a lot of women, hormone replacement therapy is kind of a key consideration, but there's a lot of science out there that's good, and there's a lot of science out there that's bad. So some doctors will tell you, no, you don't want estrogen replacement therapy because that causes cancer. And Dr. Siebel does a really good job of breaking down why that science was a little flawed. It's not entirely flawed, but there's a window of opportunity for you to consider hormone replacement therapy, and then that's off the table. And so kind of understanding when that window is for you is kind of a good guideline for you to make real health decisions for yourself. Because some doctors, all they remember is the nurses study because that's what they learned in college, and they don't know that there's new science out there that says there's other caveats to what is what. Okay. If you're in perimenopause and you just want someone who would be the best friend that you would ever want to have during that period of time, that is Amanda Thebe. Her book is called Menopocalypse. She's fun. She's just a hoot. And as we were having the conversation, it's like she embraced this. At first, she was afraid, she was concerned, and she didn't have anybody to connect with. So she's created a community of women that are going through perimenopause and menopause to kind of give them the big sister kind of thing. Now you've got a community, now you've got a tribe, now you've got people that are going through that. But in her book, she talks about her experience with all of this and just kind of things that are going on. And we, like I said, she gets deep into how relationships get affected by this stuff, which is not what a lot of people talk about. They get into the physical. This is how you feel. This is what's going on. This is the opportunities. Amanda does a really good job of actually talking about what's going on in the head during this period of your life. And then Menopause Confidential, Dr. Tara Ullman is just a really cool woman. There are other things that will be going on in your life during the same period of time. And so she's got kind of this whole thing of, now you're also going to have to go get a colonoscopy in addition to all the other stuff that's going on in your life. So she kind of talks about some other things, and we get into that into the book. But I've got the episode numbers listed there to kind of help you if you just want to go listen to the episode a little bit, see if that person resonates with you, and if that's something you're interested in doing a little bit more exploration. But these are 4 books that I highly recommend that you check out because these folks did their homework. They know what's going on. So with that, I'll open it up to Q&A. And let me see if I can actually get my chat to open. Okay. So I see a question, I guess, about Zoladex, which is, I guess, a medication. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I can't really speak to any kind of prescriptions or any kind of medical advice from that perspective. Having a conversation with your doctor will give you the best options. The homework you do outside of that, because, what I've found with most doctors, and again, they're trying the best they can. They've got experience with what they know. They went to medical school, they did their thing, and now here they are. Some doctors are going to push you towards one thing, some doctors will push you towards another thing. So the more you generally know about the options that are out there, then the better the decision you make. Now, the only way I can really kind of face this, and again, not a conversation you guys would have to deal with, but men struggle or will deal with at some point in their life, probably prostate cancer. And so as I look at prostate cancer, the question is, do you have your prostate removed or not? And there's a risk there if I have my prostate removed that I may actually have some other follow-on issues that are not wanted, like impotence and ED. And so as you kind of talk about these issues, it's important for you to know both sides of the risks and the rewards. And then as you try to make a medical decision, just do it from a point of objectivity and understanding, not just a, well, my doctor said, so therefore I am. And so finding the best path for yourself is really the best way to do it. So be your own health advocate. And if you don't feel comfortable going to your doctor and being that advocate, write the questions down before you go to that doctor's appointment. Maybe even have someone come with you. And as that individual goes into that conversation, you have a kind of a sounding board, someone else is listening and seeing if it makes sense to them, if it's reasonable to them. So make sure you're the advocate, make sure you build a good team around yourself and approach those things. Okay, I see a question from Barbara. I exercise a lot, but post-menopause, I'm out with, I'm out with on 6 to 10 kilos. Okay, suboptimal eating. Okay, how do you get weight off? Okay, so this is my perspective, and it's what I've seen, particularly with people over the age of 40. Okay, there is a process out there, and it's the most popular one, and we personal trainers love it because we can sell exercise, and nutritionists love it because they can sell food, and it's called the calories in, calories out. Here's the cool thing about calories in, calories out. It's true. It's absolutely true. You burn more calories than you consume, you will lose weight. But the problem is that's the simple math on the top. Below the math on the top is this layer of what you eat and when you eat it. So are you getting the nutrition your body needs so it can build back muscle, bone, all the things you need, give you the energy you need? Are you getting good food? Because you could eat $1,200 calories, kilocalories of Twinkies every day. Or you can eat 1,200 calories of nutritionally dense foods with vegetables, a little bit of meat, some fish. You can have this really good meal and have really good meals and eat 1,200 calories, or you can eat Twinkies. Now, in a calories in, calories out model, the answer would be the same. But the reality is it's not, because when your body is missing what it needs, it starts telling you to eat more. So it's really, really hard to stick with calories in, calories out when you're always hungry, when you're never satiated. It's really, really hard. So there's this whole thing about what are your macros and what's the nutritional density of the food you're eating, micros, macros, all of that. Are you eating optimally for yourself? For some people, veganism works great. For others, keto works great. So there's not one size fits all. And no, that's not just an answer. So just like with calories in, calories out, simple answer sometimes works for some people until it doesn't. Same thing with vegan and keto, works for some people until it doesn't. And then there's this deeper layer. And this is where when we get into menopause, that now we're really seeing where the rubber hits the road. And that's the messengers in our body that are hormones. So if you're super uber stressed out and cortisol is off the charts bad, you're not going to lose weight. If your estrogen and testosterone and progesterone, all those kind of sex hormones are out of whack, it's harder to lose weight. If your hunger hormones, the ghrelin and the leptin, are out of whack, it's really hard to lose weight. So that's why when I talked about those four things of the exercise, the movement, the nutrition, the sleep, and the stress, is if you're trying to make those as good as you can, where you're not so much focused on the weight, but you're focused on the health. Because weight loss is a side effect of a healthy lifestyle. It's not the outcome you should be after. You should be after being healthy, feeling good. So the best measurement for you, for me, is to wake up in the morning, look in the mirror as you're brushing your teeth, smile, look at your skin, look at your eyes, and if you look and feel great, bingo, you just nailed that day before and at night. Do it again. If you don't, do some analysis. What didn't work for me? Oh, I was really stressed out at bedtime, ate a whole freaking bag of popcorn. Not working for me. Hit the ice cream again, not working for me. And so just kind of recognizing what are those triggers, what are those things happening. So there's not a one answer for a weight loss thing, other than when you can get past the weight loss and be thinking about it in terms of weight loss is a side effect of a healthy lifestyle. Fitness is a side effect of a healthy lifestyle. And so as you go through it and recognize the hormones going everywhere, kind of throw a little bit of a wrench in the healthy lifestyle stuff, but it's still possible. It's harder, but it's still possible. And so as you're going through this, show that self-love, show that compassion, invest in your health each day across each of those four. And I think you'll be much more successful than when you're just focused on the scale and stressing out about it not taking out the kilos when you want them to. Okay, I see a few more. Okay, mood boosting foods. Yeah, highly nutritionally dense foods, fruits, vegetables, good quality meats. The healthier the plant or the animal was when it was alive, the better it's going to suit you. So there's not one food, other than if you like a particular food. Like, I'm a weirdo. I love beets. I love liver and onions. I love those foods. And guess what? When they're organic and they're fresh, they're grass-fed, grass-finished, or grown organically and taken care of, those foods just fill me up with energy. So having good variety of vegetables and fruits, and then having good variety of other things to make sure the micronutrients and the macronutrients are suitable to you. And I can tell you personally, I don't do really well on high carb. So when I do carbs, like even I talk about the beets, I've got to mix in a good bit of fiber with that. I've got to mix in some fat to kind of tap down on what those carbs are going to do for me. But I still want them. So a huge salad with beets, man, I'm in heaven. I'm in heaven. So find the foods that make you feel good. Find the new foods that are nutritionally dense that kind of do that. And I think you'll find those are the same foods that make you feel better. Ice cream might make you feel better for a few minutes, but it's gone. It's fleeting. So don't go after the sugar high. Go after the nutrient high, because that pays off longer term. Medication basically sends. Okay, yes, yeah, okay, okay, sorry. I'm gonna mispronounce your name. Myrophora. Apologize if I mispronounce your name there, but no, you're absolutely right. There are, I've heard about them, particularly like some chemotherapy drugs and some other drugs that can, because what they're doing is they're trying to tap down your estrogen. So they're basically beating your ovaries up, for lack of a better word. So your ovaries are going to lose that fight over that medication. And yes, you're going to start noticing probably some perimenopause and menopause problems. And again, like I spoke about hysterectomy and things like that. And yes, those medications have a very similar effect and can cause some of those same things. So thank you for bringing that up. Medications are kind of, again, one of those things. And yes, if you're on a medication and it's causing you to lose weight, gain weight, the best recommendation I can make is focus on the lifestyle things that you can control. Because if you need to be on that medication, you need to be on that medication. This is not something you can just say, well, no, I don't want to gain the weight, I'm not going to take the medication. It's not an option. So what are the things you can control in your lifestyle that will optimize your health despite this thing? And so the weight loss might not be, oh, this is my goal, I got to get down to 120, I got to be able to wear the dress. before my daughter's wedding, that might not happen. So show self-love and compassion and recognize, okay, fine, I'm going through this thing, be it standard menopause or this medicated menopause. And as I go into this situation, to say, okay, what are the things I can do? Nutritionally dense foods, movement, stress management, and get the best sleep I could possibly get. Those 4 things will do more for you than anything else I could ever tell you. So that's almost always going to be my answer. So as far as movement, you can hire a coach. As far as nutrition, you can hire a coach. You have to look at the process and say, I need accountability, I need guidance, I need support. And that's where coaches can be brilliant if you have the right coach. Now, the fact that Amanda has me on this show tells me you guys have the right person in your corner. Okay. So as you start looking at what you're trying to accomplish, if you struggle to stay motivated moving and you know accountability is what the issue is, or just a little bit of guidance of just this and that, let's pick here, let's pick there, or I don't know, maybe you're trying a new way of eating and you want to have someone that's going to guide you through that. Whatever the case is, just looking at it and saying, okay, I will do better with this help. Asking for help is the strongest thing you could ever do. Continuing to just suffer and take it is not brave. It's the exact opposite of brave. Bravery is admitting you need help and getting the help you need. So, as you start looking at what you want to do, be it weight loss, be it anything else, do the right thing for yourself. Self-love. And the way I like to say this is, okay, if your significant other needed you to pick them up at the airport at 5 o'clock in the morning, where are you at 5 o'clock in the morning? You're at the airport. Okay. If 5 o'clock in the morning is the only time you can make it to the gym, or only time you can do your workout at home, what are you doing at 5 o'clock in the morning? So you have to show yourself the same respect, the same love, the same everything that you do anybody else that you truly love. And when you can do that, this isn't as hard. You can think about it. When I said significant other needs you to pick them up at the airport or take them to the airport, you didn't even think about what time it was. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but okay, you do it. So as you start looking at the investment in time, investment in yourself, you just do it because you love it. You love yourself. Okay, I see Guinevere, sorry, 15 kg over the past couple of years, treatments and struggling. Again, I'll just kind of put this down. I know you guys are having this conversation as well, is that self-compassion is, for a lot of people, is the missing element. You are not the extra body fat that you believe you have. There's something else in there that's special. There's something in there that you deserve. You deserve to be healthy. You deserve to feel good. You deserve to live the life you want to live. So if you start making the small investments, maybe even big investments in who you want to be, that's the right direction. The weight loss is a side effect. The better looking skin, better looking eyes, the healthier hair, all those things are really just side effects of you living a healthier lifestyle. Because the actions that you're taking, the lifestyle actions, as I talked about, those 3 layers of calories in, calories out, and knowing the right nutrition levels and hormones, it's lifestyle that does all of those. If I just gave you a calorie number and said, just to eat this amount of calories every day, yeah, for a little while you'd lose weight and then you'd stop losing weight. Well, why does that happen? Well, it happens because you're not getting the nutrition you need. And therefore your hormones are out of whack. So when you can line those up and say, I'm doing the lifestyle things that are necessary, all that actually, it's not as complex. It is complex if you're trying to do all of them. Like, I'm really worried about what my hormone numbers are, so I'm gonna get my hormones checked every month. And I'm really worried about my macros, and so I'm gonna measure those and get on something like MyFitnessPal and just become like a math wizard with all how much I'm eating. I'm gonna measure everything. that's not living. And so worrying about your calories, worrying about your macros and all that, it's really just a function of saying what foods serve me and which ones don't. Get rid of the ones that don't. What actions with regards to movement serve me and which ones don't. Get rid of the ones that don't. Which things about stress and sleep serve me? Do those, more of those maybe, and get rid of the ones that don't. And over time, you gradually build a lifestyle that makes all of this sustainable. And one of the cool things is, yeah, you're going through menopause, you're going through changes. So those things will change as well. But we expect that, just like we go through the stages of life of before you were in puberty and then after puberty and then going to college and then everything else that's happened in your life since is a gradual change, something new, do something different. We don't act like we did when we were 8 years old. Yes, maybe you have your dessert before you eat your dinner because you can, because you're an adult. But the reality is, I don't eat ice cream and only ice cream. Whereas when you were 12 or 10 or 5 or 3, that's all you wanted was the ice cream or the mac and cheese. And that's not serving you now. So jettison it. Okay. Yeah, again, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay. So Guinevere, as far as supplements and vitamins, the best supplement or vitamin you can get is good quality whole food that's grown well or raised well. You can get everything you need from whole foods without having to worry about the vitamins. Now, I say that, but I say that with a caveat of vitamins and supplements are supplemental. So, like in North America, we would say anyone who lives north of, I don't know, Memphis, I guess, in the winter, you're not getting as much sunshine. So you might be a little low on vitamin D. If you're a vegetarian or vegan, you might be a little low on B12. Now, you can get blood tests to actually see what those are. If you don't eat enough fruits and vegetables, and you're not eating any kind of organ meat from, and you're eating mostly meat, you might be deficient in vitamin C. So as you kind of think about how you eat and what nutrition you're getting from the food that you're eating, then that's going to give you the dynamic to say, is there a supplement I should consider? Now, I say all that, but there are a few that I would say most people would probably benefit from. I think if you're not getting out in the sun, which again, I think in Australia is a little bit different because getting out in the sun is kind of scary, then vitamin D3 might be something for you to consider. If you don't eat fish and all that, you may want to consider a good omega-3 supplement. Okay. Go with high quality, make sure it's taken care of because it can go rancid pretty quick with fish oils and things like that. But there's fish oils, there's krill oil, and then one of my sponsors was actually from New Zealand. It's a company called Haka Life, and they do a green lipped mussel omega-3. So get a good quality omega-3 supplement. If you're lifting weights and you want more energy and you want to lift more and get maybe a little bit more muscular, put on some muscle, creatine is probably the most tested weightlifting supplement out there, and it does improve muscle mass and it does improve muscle performance. Also does some pretty cool things for the brain. Those are the only 3 that I would say on a regular basis I would take. If you're on a statin because you have some cholesterol issues or things like that, you definitely want to make sure you're taking some CoQ10. A lot of the statins these days have CoQ10 kind of built into it because they recognize the statin attacks the same pathway that CoQ10 is made. So you need to supplement CoQ10 just to protect your heart if you're taking a statin. But talk to your doctor about some of these things. And if you're really concerned about it, I would say get tested and just see if there are some deficiencies that you need to address. All right, any other questions before we wrap up? Okay. All right. So what I have here on my close is this is my email address. You can message me on Facebook if you have some questions. And then, of course, the podcast. 40 Plus Fitness podcast is available everywhere you listen to podcasts. As I said before, it's been available since 2015 with over 500. I think episode 509 went live this week. And I've got several sitting in the hopper ready to go. So I'll be doing this for a while. Love doing this podcast, love meeting these authors and having these conversations. So if there's something you're concerned about, something you have a question about, message me. If I don't have the answer, I'll find someone who does, because I got a lot of friends. But thank you so much for your attention and have a good day.
Alan, thank you so much. That was really, really, really fantastic. As Brian said, like, it does tie in a lot with the kind of whole lifestyle approach that we really try to emphasize here. But I think hearing it from you and having you who's worked with people who work specifically with this age group has just been super, super important for the ladies on here. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation, because as you can tell, I'm really, really passionate about making sure people, because there's some books out there now and things like that, but most people just suck it up, buttercup. This is the way it is. And the reality is you have domain. So make the right choices for yourself. Get rid of the bad things that aren't serving you, and do more of the good things.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate that. And thanks everybody for coming on, guys.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye. Good night,
Bye.
Alan.
Cheers.